And there's Jake. Can you hear me right now, Jake? Beautiful. Excellent. How you
Yes, I
doing?
can
It's so
hear
good.
you.
It's so good to see you.
Good to see you too.
Yeah. How excited have people been about this new paper so far? I see you've been quoted in a number of articles. Any TV news or anything yet? Are people just banging down your door trying to, get you to talk about this?
No TV news yet. Definitely been quite a bit of press around it. We've had some uh, radio. We've had some good press.
Uh-huh.
Some interesting interpretations of what I've said, definitely. But you always get that with,
Sure.
your
Yeah,
yeah, you know the drill.
for
Um,
sure.
it's also been interesting to read some of the Facebook comments of people's reactions.
Mm-hmm.
How people can also be with new stuff without reading articles. But no, this has been there's been some good press. Yeah, it's definitely had a better reaction than I thought it would. It's also been a huge body of work. This has taken years because it was one of those things where we kind of went in going, okay, well, we want to do this, and then as we kind of
Mm-hmm.
reviewed it, it kind of grew and grew and grew and grew and it became bigger than Ben Hur. It's yeah,
Oh
it
yeah,
just took
I know how it goes.
ages.
And it's a huge manuscript too. I opened that up and I like this is a master work. This is humongous. So congrats on
Yeah,
finally getting that published, you know?
yeah, it's been a yeah, it's been yeah, and the thing is too, it's a chapter of my PhD too. So it's
Uh-huh.
and this is my second chapter. The first one was the same thing. It was another one where it kind of just grew like
Mm-hmm.
that. So I've had to do two taxonomic works. So it both of them in at the same time like that was not to pat myself on the back or anything, but it's definitely difficult.
Mm-hmm.
But No, I'm glad it's out. I'm glad that they're both out. The Dassy
Yeah.
Circus one came out 2003. This one's come out this year now.
Nice.
Um, but definitely the thing I'm personally happy with is to show that as I was sure you saw too,
Mm-hmm.
the use of these subfossils shows that we cannot rely on living populations, and it's something that to you
Right.
and me would be quite obvious, but is not
Mm-hmm.
being utilized enough.
Uh-huh. I'm excited to go into more detail about that, but first I should ask you, especially for folks who are just trickling into the chat, could you introduce yourself and also say how long you've been here on Twitch as well, because that's how I first met you was a few years back um, here in the chat.
Yeah, so I am Jake Newman-Martin. I'm a PhD student at Curtin University here in beautiful Western Australia, on the other side of the globe. I focus on small mammals from Australia, especially from caves of the Nullarbor region, which is a region on the border of Western Australia, South Australia, down the bottom corner. It's notable because basically that region of the world is the largest exposed karst system. So you get these beautiful cave systems. So
Nice.
they preserve all sorts of fossils beautifully. And my work is focusing on how we can use those fossils to better understand ecology. Um, I also basically got into paleontology through my love of wanting to do that work. And yeah, I stumbled upon Danny's paleontologizing show basically a few years ago. It would have been now. Because you scroll through Twitch because you're like, oh, is there anything interesting to have on in the background while you're writing away or measuring or something? Because I'm sure you've had those days where you're just in the museum, measuring bones or
Oh yeah.
describing or this and that, and you just want some noise in the background just so that it gets rid of that monotony. And you find, oh, hey, look, there's a paleontology channel. That's cool. Not just gaming, gaming, gaming.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, cool. I can have some stuff on that's not just the same thing every day. So it's great. You've done something amazing on this platform. You're doing SciComm, which is something that not everyone can do. It's not an easy piece of work that most scientists do not engage with, and those who do not
Mm-hmm.
aren't always able to do it. So it's definitely worth doing what you're doing.
I consider it a huge privilege to be able to do this, and thank you for your support over the years. By the way, the
I I
Dinosaur
noticed. I
track there. You
saw it.
saw that, yeah.
Yeah. No,
Thank you again
yeah.
for that. Incredibly cool. Luluicnus, I believe, is the taxon name for that. The
Yes.
ichnotaxon. Yeah. Yeah, and I take it as a huge compliment as well that you would, you know, put this gibberish on in the background as you're doing science. It's that's high praise, and I appreciate you saying that. I'm kind of I gotta say I'm impressed that you've already gotten this published. This is a chapter in your dissertation. This is before you've officially graduated, right? And you're already getting this published?
Yeah, so I'm doing what's called a thesis, oh, sorry, a hybrid thesis. So you don't, there
Okay.
is three ways you can do your PhD in Australia. I think you guys do
Hmm.
it differently, PhDs,
I think
but
so. Yeah.
traditionally you do it over a 3 year period. I think you guys do 5 years for PhD. Correct me if
Typically,
I'm
yeah.
wrong.
4 or 5, yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah. I've unfortunately taken a lot longer because, I started in 2020 and we know what happened
Very
then. And
thorough. Oh yeah. Well, also like the
to,
nature of the work that you're doing, I would think would take longer than your typical track.
oh,
Yeah.
I've hit the 5 year point and kind of
Yeah.
been very stressed about that. Yeah, so typically it's 3 years,
Uh-huh.
and there's thesis by publication, which is you publish every chapter.
Mm-hmm.
There's hybrid, which is you don't have to publish every chapter, but they would prefer you publish as many as you can. And
Uh-huh.
then there's just thesis by, you've written it, you panned it in, and then you could go straight into industry. You never have to publish if you want. So
Mm.
mine's a hybrid, which means I can publish it as I get them done. And
Nice.
so the last two chapters I probably won't get published in time
Mm-hmm.
to when I hand in my manuscript, but I will publish them after. They
Very
also need
nice.
a
Yeah.
bit more work because I'm working with legacy material. So you know how it
Mm-hmm.
can be with the original authors and how they wish to handle
Yeah.
uh, the delicacies, let's just say, of I'm
Good way
sure
to
I'm
put it.
sure Twitch chat doesn't understand what we're talking about, but legacy material can be quite
Oh yeah, I'm picking up what
difficult
you're
in
putting
that
down for
regard.
sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think that is really great that you're getting all this stuff out there before you're even done because I can't tell you how many colleagues I have who, they've gotten their PhD, and now they're like a tenured professor, and they still haven't published anything from their PhD thesis. And sometimes it's stuff
Yeah.
that you really
No,
need to cite, and it's kind of a gray
that's
area
still,
there.
yeah, I do know people like that who have gone into industry, they're
Yeah.
doing work and they're like, "Oh yeah, I'm 10 years down the track, whatever. I still haven't published because they just never get the time." But I
Right.
definitely What was one of the things one of my supervisors from the start said, "No, no, publish, publish,
Hmm.
publish. You got to get everything out there. You got to get it out now." And
Right.
I mean, for me it's one of those things where I really wanted to get the work out because it's important work
Hmm.
that I'm doing. Or at least I
Right.
think it is because taxonomy is the backbone of what we do.
Right.
If we do not have a fundamental understanding of species,
Hmm.
everything around that doesn't work because you
Hmm.
can research a species all you want, but then when that species gets moved to something else, all of that data now is null and void.
Yep.
So do the taxonomic work first, and then you can
Hmm.
do everything later.
Right.
Um,
I really like that
to
approach,
me,
and maybe,
that's
yeah, maybe just for the benefit of people who might be unfamiliar with these terms, explain what taxonomy is so that folks know what we're talking about, because we've got some people who might be
yeah. So
pretty new to this. Yeah.
taxonomy is the naming of species essentially. So it's the basis for Linnaean taxonomic approach, which is
Hmm.
essentially when Tyrannosaurus rex would might be the easiest one. Tyrannosaurus genus, Rex species. It's what we give to a species so that you and I know what we're talking about. We have common names. You might say this is a domestic dog. You might say this is a red wolf. Blah 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 blah. That is not meaningful if a species has 12 common names or if there are multiple common names that apply to multiple species. So, in
Right.
order for scientists globally to understand what we're talking about, we use Greek and Latin traditionally, not always anymore. And there are
Hmm.
purists out there who only want us to use Greek and Latin, but that's a whole other thing. So, essentially, what we decided well and truly long ago with Linnaeus is that we will apply a genus name and a species name and sometimes a subspecies and subgenus, but that's a whole mess in its own. To
Yeah,
each
we
of
won't get
these
into that.
animals and
Yeah.
plants and all life in order to divide and understand taxa. And it works. It's an easy way of going, look, I'm talking about this, and then you straight away know what I'm talking about, rather than going,
Mm-hmm.
oh, it's the red-crested honey eater, and you're like, okay, but which red-crested honey eater?
Exactly. And in which
Yeah,
language, and like it's a way of kind of making
exactly,
things international and standardized across the world. These
100%.
binomials like this. Yeah. But beyond that, what you're doing here is not just naming genera and species, but also trying to figure out which ones actually are distinct species from one another. Maybe talk a little bit about that. What's the history of taxonomy for betongs, and how has it been confusing in the past? How are you trying to sort out that mess?
Yeah, so our problem, unfortunately, comes back from colonization. So when Australia was first colonized, a lot of the species that were grabbed, the idea was, and I'm trying to put this as sensitively as possible, take everything, put it back in the Natural History Museum, essentially. As the
Mm-hmm.
stereotype goes, take it back to the UK.
Yep.
So we don't actually have a lot of our holotypes here,
Oh,
which
really?
I'm sure
Oh.
you understand how the importance of that.
Oh,
But
yeah.
to your
Yeah.
chat, a holotype is the name bearer of that species. So for Tyrannosaurus rex, it's the Tyrannosaurus rex. Everything else is just, oh, we think this is Tyrannosaurus rex. But
Mm-hmm.
that is the thing that has the name.
Yeah.
So for us to not have, the kangaroo, the possum, we can't compare that. And those
Mm-hmm.
are all in, the Natural History Museum in London. So that has made taxonomy for Australian marsupials, and this modern, I should say,
Mm-hmm.
marsupials, very difficult because these are species that have been named in the 1800s, usually by very legendary taxonomists, I will say. But our standards have changed.
Uh-huh.
So the descriptions are usually only a paragraph, a sentence long. The
Mm-hmm.
materials may be subpar in the photos. We would like to review that. Unfortunately, it even means having to travel there, which I did as part of this paper, and
Oh, okay,
that's not
nice. All
cheap.
the way to London. No, definitely not.
Um,
I'm doing that for SVP this
it's not.
year on the way to Birmingham. It's pricey. Yeah.
Yeah, well, you're at least going across just the Atlantic to travel. It's not cheap. It's
Yeah, for sure.
yeah, it's so the idea. Again, trying to put this sensitively, it would be nice if we had those holotypes to be able to do our own work.
Right.
So yeah, so in the case of the betongs, Betongia penicillata was described using one specimen that's locked up in the Natural History Museum.
Mm-hmm.
Betongia, at the time, Betongia penicillata agilbii, described on a juvenile specimen, like half a skull because of the way they prepared specimens back then, locked up
Mm.
in the Natural History Museum. So no one kind of knew
Uh-huh.
how to really re-describe these species. They were
Sure.
named, and everyone kind of just went, okay, well, if that's the names, you know, Penicillata is extinct. We don't have Penicillata here. Cool. The living ones are gilbii. Well, we see a gilbii here, so there's no
Mm-hmm.
problem.
Sure.
But it's once you actually go to these institutions and you have the ability to look, and then you compare it with the fossils, the genetics, everything else,
Uh-huh.
you are able to accumulate all the data together, and you actually able to go, hang on, something's wrong here. And it comes from basically, as I said, we don't have the types. We're only looking at the living species.
Mm-hmm.
Once you compare the extinct species and the genetics and that, it becomes rather obvious. You go, oh, actually, this morphologically looks different to this. And it's something that you might be going, oh, well, that's very clear. Why isn't that done more often? But it's very difficult to do. There's costs.
Certainly. Yeah.
There's huge obstacles to do this work.
Hmm. So with this new paper that you've just published, do you expect that this is going to be controversial for people who are working on betongs? Like,
I know it's controversial.
you know it's
Uh,
controversial.
I've
Okay, tell
presented
us about it.
I've presented this at several conferences. The very
Uh-huh.
first one I presented at, I think it was 2021, and
Uh-huh.
it was a conservation conference. And once that conference wrapped up, I got an email
Uh-huh.
from several people. I won't name names, but I got an email from several people who work in the translocation of woylies,
Yeah.
and they basically said, "Bullshit." Oh, sorry.
You didn't hear
Bull
that, chat.
dust.
Yeah.
Bull
Yeah.
dust. That can't
They
be
weren't
true.
happy about it. Yeah. Yeah.
They weren't happy, and then they
Hmm.
CC'd in some people who work on them at the moment. Said, you work on genetics.
Hmm.
What do you think? And the geneticists kind of went, "Oh, we haven't thought of that. Let me have a think." And I said, "Well, the problem I see with your genetic paper is you've listed all these genomes or uh, not genomes, samples that you have, and
Hmm.
you've put them on GenBank. So for your chat, GenBank is essentially a uh, website that lists all genetic samples that have been taken of all specimens, at least in Australia. I'm not sure if it has international specimens or not. It might do. But basically, whenever a geneticist takes a sample, they put the sequence up and say, here's what it is. Anyone can use it. The
Hmm.
problem I found was that it didn't say where they got those sequences for. It would just say, it's a woylie and it's that. And
Uh-huh.
they'd go, yeah, we got it from the museum. And I can't relate that to a specimen. So to me, that's not usable.
Exactly. Like that.
Because
Where did it come from? Which population is
exactly,
it from? You know,
you've
like
taken out the key thing that paleontologists know is context. Without
exactly.
context,
Exactly.
that data
Yeah.
is useless.
Uh-huh.
So I kind of said to them, well, you've told me that these 100 are, WA museum specimens, but you
Hmm.
haven't told me the specimen numbers. There's two problems with that. As I said, context. The second
Wait,
problem
they
is
don't even have the
you haven't
specimen
credited.
numbers there in the GenBank?
No, they
That's
don't have the specimen numbers. The GenBank does not require them to upload the specimen numbers. So that was the instant problem. I was like, okay, well, so how do I know that what you're saying is true? You've said
uh-huh.
in your paper that 50 specimens failed to sequence. How do I know that those 50 aren't the new species?
Yeah. I
There's no way of linking these two papers together. And
That's
so they went,
shocking.
oh, okay, that makes sense. Yeah, we can understand where this problem might have come from then. We might
Uh-huh.
need to redo our paper. And I said, yeah, okay, yeah. And so after some back and forth,
Uh-huh.
that's when they kind of pulled back on the no, what you're saying can't be true. You're making us look bad, and kind of.
Uh-huh.
So it is controversial in the sense that some people are upset that the translocation of these animals might be problematic.
Might have been slightly misguided in some
But the thing
circumstances.
is with
Yeah.
science is if we're wrong,
Uh-huh.
that's part of the process. Like
Right.
it's
That's
a
how we learn.
self-correcting discipline. Yeah,
Exactly. Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. Um, do you suspect that this will have important ramifications for how those translocation projects are done in the future? Like, do you are you confident that they're going to look at this and maybe use that to change their methods a little bit? Because from what I've seen, it seems like some of this stuff has been successful. We just watched a couple of videos about betongs being reintroduced to shoot, which is the population that's doing pretty well. It's currently growing. Seems
That
like
would
that's a
be
success
Air
story.
Peninsula in South Australia. So
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
they've taken WA betongs and put them in South Australia. So South Australia used to have the extinct Betongia peniculata.
Uh-huh.
We have the living Ogilvii ones, the woylie.
Okay.
And so that's what I was talking about, where they've
Mm-hmm.
taken one from one population, put them in the other. That's the key issue where they're saying, hey, this is you're making us
Uh-huh.
look bad
Yeah,
because they're
yeah.
doing all this press to say, look at the success we're having. Now, again, I'm not saying what they're doing is a bad thing because those animals are thriving,
Yeah.
but we don't know the long term ramifications. So,
Right.
for instance, I know in the early days of projects like this, one of the issues were woylies eat seeds.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the results was that when those seeds got passed, they accidentally introduced a bunch of plants to the area that weren't from that area.
So they were
So now they have
carrying
to purge.
invasive plants in their guts, essentially,
Yeah. So now they
unknowingly.
have to
Oh
purge
boy.
the woylies.
Uh-huh.
But again, we don't know. There could be bacteria that are in
Sure.
the woylies' gut. There could be
Yeah,
bacteria in the
yeah.
environment the woylies aren't used to. There could be parasites in
Mm-hmm.
both. That it's one of those things where all I'm saying is we need to do a lot more
Right.
research into
Uh-huh.
this before, because there's so many things we don't know. Biology is so messy. There's
Mm-hmm.
so many things. There's so many factors.
Right.
I believe so. The key example that I like to use because it's fascinating in North America, and you can correct me if I'm wrong on this
Mm-hmm.
because it might be out of date now. There's only one extinct invertebrate, I think one extinct terrestrial invertebrate that you guys have,
Hmm.
and that's the California condor mite. Because when you guys brought the California condor into captivity,
Oh
you
boy.
deloused them.
I've never heard about this, but that would make a lot of sense. Yeah, shoot. Um, so in saving the
And now
condor, they drove this
you wiped out
invertebrate
a
into extinction.
yeah.
Oh boy.
And
Uh,
supposedly, what's happening with the California condor genetics now is because without that parasite constantly selecting them for parasite
right.
resistance, they're losing parasite resistance
Oh boy.
because they had a specific mite that had adapted to live on the birds, which these birds were okay without, but without this
Uh-huh.
mite that's constantly feeding on them. So
Right.
we don't know. Essentially, my point is we don't know the ramifications it will have. There's no problem
Right.
with them putting them there. They're doing a great job. They're living. They're breeding.
Mm-hmm.
But in 50 years from now, there might be someone who comes along and goes, "Damn those scientists." That's not
Right.
me. I'm
Yeah.
not going to take that. But
But that is a really really interesting point that you're making, and it does illustrate that this sort of basic on the ground research is incredibly necessary. You know, like
yes,
we don't know what we don't know in a lot of these cases, and so
100%.
to be really really thorough about this stuff is critically important. Um,
Yeah.
can I ask you
The
about?
problem comes.
Yeah, go for it.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say the problem comes when I've had chats with these people who are on the ground.
Uh huh.
Their counterpoint is, well, this is a critically endangered species. Do you want us to just sit back and let it die? So that's where what we have to weigh up essentially is
Mm-hmm. Sure.
what do we do to save the species now versus
Right.
what do we sit back and wait for the research? And I fully understand that it's a balancing act of okay, well, let's
Yeah.
do what we can now versus wait and see. So
Mm-hmm.
it's tricky. It's yeah. I'm as I said, I'm not poo pooing what these people do
Mm-hmm.
because we need it's going out in the field every day, monitoring, tracking these populations.
Right.
Brilliant. They're doing amazing stuff, but
Mm-hmm.
as you said, we don't know what we don't know.
Right. Yeah. And to me, like I hear that, oh, do you want us to just sit back and wait for all these critters to die? It doesn't seem like an either or. It seems like a resource scarcity problem. Like maybe I'm being idealistic about this, but it sounds to me like if we just had more funding for this kind of thing, that we could have more people doing your kind of work and more people working in the field, that we don't have to make a choice between those two things. I recognize that there's a very limited population of these critters out there in the wild, but
Hmm.
I kind of feel like I don't know. I wanted to ask you about funding. Has it been difficult to get funding for this kind of work? And
So every grant I've applied for personally has been
uh-huh.
rejected
Oh
because
boy.
my research is not viewed as important. I will leave it at that.
By whom? What? That sorry, that just I'm
So
really frustrated by that.
for instance,
I
I applied for a grant to go to the UK. It was a
uh-huh.
specific grant. I it was years ago now, so I apologize. I can't remember the name of the grant, but it
Hmm.
was basically one of those. Hey, do you need to visit the UK museums for X, Y, Z?
Sure, yeah.
Myself and a couple other students who were going to the museum because we're like, sweet, we need to look at holotypes.
Hmm.
Applied. We wrote these big long things saying, we're from Australia. You guys have all our holotypes.
Right.
You know, these don't get reviewed often. Uh, please, can we have money? This would be great. And to my knowledge, from what I can recall, again, this is 4 or 5 years ago now. So I
Hmm.
apologize if I got it
Sure.
wrong. They handed these grants to European students,
Hmm.
which is kind of like, hang on, they can get a bus and just drive to the
Exactly. They
UK.
could take a train. Um, oh boy. Yeah. Um,
So there seems to be this kind of bias,
uh-huh.
and I'm not sure if you've gotten it, but the natural sciences seem to kind of take a back seat a lot of the time.
Oh, absolutely.
Um,
Yeah. Uh, See, here I am from the US hoping that you were going to say, well, people in Australia really love and value our marsupials. They're immensely proud of them. So, funding is
oh,
not difficult to
people
get.
people do.
Uh-huh.
Don't get me wrong. The general public love our wildlife. We're very much
Uh-huh.
known for our wildlife. Steve Irwin, Crocodile Dundee.
Sure,
We have
yeah.
this
Yeah.
reputation to
That's
uphold.
honestly the first thing that I
The
think
general
of when I
public
think
do.
of Australia is, the fauna. Absolutely.
Yeah, but there's definitely this divide between the general public and
The
everyone
people
else
who are in
who's
charge of
the
things.
people who work.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, how do you think we change that? I mean, part of that is going to be increasing public awareness, but I don't know. And you've been doing some cool press about
Uh,
this. We saw those articles there. Um, I kind of feel like that if the general public realized how poorly funded these enterprises are, there might be some outrage there. I don't know. Um,
I
yeah.
unfortunately don't know. I mean, I come from the wrong state as well to ask this. So Western Australia, the state I'm from,
Uh huh.
we're a mineral state. We have one of the
Right.
largest deposits of iron ore in the
So like
world.
industry is
So our
king there.
state's very mining. Yeah,
Yeah.
industry is, our museum is, and this has been making a lot of press. Our museum's partnered with one of the major mining companies, so it's
Uh huh.
seen as a kind of controversial thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so all of the major science is funded by mining here. So
Mm-hmm.
you can say it's a collaborative thing where we need to work with these industries and make them better, but you could also say that maybe we need to move away from it. I have no clue how to fix the
Sure.
funding issues because
Uh huh.
I'm just a PhD student at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But there is a way forward, obviously, because there is always a way forward, whether
Mm-hmm.
that be through collaborative efforts, saying, "Hey, you give us a bit of funding, we help you." Because I'm of the opinion, personally,
Mm-hmm.
and this is separate to my work, that
Sure.
there probably is a collaborative way to do things where we get these minerals, but we also don't damage the environment.
Sure.
But I have no way, and I do not have the expertise to know how we do that. So
Fair.
it's
And spoken like a
unfortunate
true
to.
scientist there too. I mean, well said. Um,
I mean, yeah, people shouldn't be afraid to say I don't know. That's the yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And we've got some people from Australia in the chat agreeing with you about mining interest being very powerful in Australia, and yeah,
Oh yeah.
because I don't know, coming from like a very blinkered view, coming from here in the states, we see things like the Easter Bilby and stuff like that in Australia, and how
Yeah.
uh, personally I love that story that like there's this immense pride in these really cool marsupials that you have nowhere else on Earth, and there's commercial appeal for that. They're able to get the public excited, and then some of that money is going back toward the conservation of these animals. It's a very happy story, and I love to hear it, but I wonder how prevalent that really is. And
It
yeah,
it's
I wasn't
definitely
even aware
prevalent.
of betongs before you emailed me about this on Thursday or Friday or whenever it was. And I'm kind of ashamed to admit that. Like, I like to think that I'm reasonably well versed in animals, but obviously marsupials are a huge blind spot for me. Um, I guess I'm going all over the place here with these questions, but let me narrow it down.
No, it's
Do you
okay.
do you
It's
feel
it's fine.
like the general public in Australia, your average person that you talk to on the bus or on the street or whatever, would they know what a betong is?
It would depend on where you are.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
betongs, unfortunately, have declined a lot.
Mm-hmm.
They were more widespread probably 100 years ago, uh, but there's pockets of them.
Mm-hmm.
So in those pocketed areas where you see them quite frequently, I would say people would know because they'd go, "Oh yeah, we have one come up on the porch or this or that."
So they have a
But in your
direct
more
personal
city,
experience with them.
yeah, so yeah, that
Gotcha.
would be the
Okay.
better way to put it. Those people who
Yeah.
have directly connections. Same with things like bandicoots. I'm sure
Okay.
there are people in your chat right now going, "Bandicoots are a real animal. I thought it was just Crash Bandicoot."
Oh boy.
Um,
Yeah.
there are people who don't know what bandicoots are, even in
Uh-huh.
Australia, because unfortunately they've been pushed out a lot of their habitats by cats.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Same thing. People who are living in these more urban city environments do not have these direct connections. But if you just travel out to the bush, so I myself, I'm out in 5 acres. We see possums all the time,
Sure.
but unfortunately, there are a lot of cats and foxes here, so we don't
Mm-hmm.
see as much wildlife as I'd like to see. I'm trying personally to restore the area and make it better. Um, so it depends on people's connections,
Mm-hmm.
and that's probably what really drives a lot of this connection is that Australia's really big, and I
It's a
think
huge
people
country. Yeah.
forget that.
Yeah.
If you put the Australia and the US next to each other, or mainland US at least, I'm pretty
Mm-hmm.
sure they're about the same size.
I think you're right.
But the problem is we're very empty. So
Mm-hmm.
so as much as the population in Australia lives around a lot of towns and things coastally,
Mm-hmm.
you just have to travel a little bit away and you're in bush straight away. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that's where that personal connection I might be talking absolute bull dust here.
No, this is
But
a
I think
good
that might
perspective
be
to
where
have.
that
Yeah.
connection. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that might be where that connection comes from, where
Hmm.
there's a lot more wilderness, if that makes sense. In the US, you
Sure.
might drive across the country and you'll be hitting small towns all the way, and there's
Hmm.
still wilderness, but it's more of a
It's a bit more
uh,
cultivated. Like we've got, you know,
yeah,
ranchers. I guess they'd be graziers in Australia. We've got these huge ranches, and like
pastureless is what we would. Yeah.
yeah, everything's fenced off. Like everything has been trees have been removed. There's cattle grazing everywhere. There's like very few actually truly wild places in the U.S. And I'm
Mm.
guessing that I'm hoping that's not necessarily true for Australia. I'm guessing that there's more
There's
true
definitely large swaths
wilderness.
where it's just being completely destroyed. So
Mm.
again, to use a local example, here in West Australia, we have what's called the wheat belt,
Okay.
which is this large area that used to be beautiful scrubland.
Uh huh.
And 1950s ish, so post World War II, we had a population boom, we had need for food.
Hmm.
Australian government said, all right, we're just handing away land to everyone who's come back from World War II.
Sure. Like a
Uh,
homesteading sort of a situation, like we had
yeah, basically,
post Civil War in the
and they got
U.S.,
these.
1860s, 1870s. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
correct, exactly like that. They got these
Yeah.
massive wrecking balls and just dragged them behind tractors, completely cleared this large swath of area,
Uh
and just
huh.
got everyone to plant wheat.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, when you do that, the trees aren't keeping down the water anymore.
Did you
So
have a
the
Dust
water
Bowl
just came up.
situation too in Australia where
Yeah, we had a dust bowl.
I
Yeah,
didn't
it just
realize that.
destroyed everything.
Oh
Yeah,
boy. Yeah. Yeah, we had that in the U.S. in
so
the
that was a
1930s.
learning.
So yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, the iconic
Uh.
American dust bowl. We had the same thing,
Uh-huh. That's so funny.
and that was a big
I had
learning
no
curve
idea.
because
Hmm.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's one of those things where everyone repeats the same issues everywhere because they don't learn. Because
Right. Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
as paleontologists, you go history and you learn from it, but you know,
Exactly. Yeah. So I was going to ask you about that
yeah.
too. Speaking as a paleontologist, you would consider yourself a paleontologist rather than a zoologist, correct? Or are you kind of
Yeah, I'm
straddling
in that
that?
weird area. So
Yeah. Yeah. Uh-huh.
yeah, so for my work, this is the best way I can think of to explain it. So
Hmm.
you've got your modern conservationists, they work on living animals. You've got
Yeah.
yourself paleontologists. Now, I saw earlier you were trying to explain subfossils. That
Hmm.
seems to go to about 10,000 years. Once you hit the Holocene, most paleontologists lose interest. They're like, oh, yeah, Holocene, that's modern.
Sure. Yeah.
I don't feel like I'm incorrect on that, but most paleontologists would say Holocene's too modern,
That's
you know.
overburden. Yeah.
But most modern day, yeah, essentially, most conservationists go 10,000 years. That's so old. We're not working on that. So the Holocene's kind of this period where
Uh-huh.
no one wants to work on it.
Right.
So I'm kind of left in this kind of gray area where if I want to work on modern mammals, I need to
Hmm.
look at the Holocene. But if I want to
Right.
work on paleontology stuff, I can work from about 50,000 years back to the Holocene and keep going to modern. So that's the kind of gray area I consider myself working in because it's
Hmm.
a lovely gray area where there's so much research to do. And
Uh-huh.
I can kind of switch between going, hey, look, there's paleontology stuff for you guys if you haven't considered, and here's all this stuff that you guys don't want to work on.
Right.
So yeah, I'm on a weird grounds where I'm a a paleozoologist conservation kind of
But that sounds like a really fertile
yeah.
area to work in. I mean, it sounds like there's so much bridge building that you can be doing there because you have a perspective that very few other people do. Um, I'm sure it's not
Yeah.
easy, but that sounds really, really valuable.
It's easier than it sounds because
Hmm.
so I came into paleontology as an environmental biologist. So I had the environmental background, and then I
Uh-huh.
kind of sidestepped into paleo because I won't tell the full story because you know
Sure.
there's no need to ramble on forever.
Yeah.
But essentially, coming from a mining state,
Hmm.
you're told when you do an environmental degree that hey, you're going to go into uh, working on mine sites. Now, I grew up as that classic kid who's like, I want to be a scientist. I want to do, work on animals. So
Yeah,
being
yeah.
told that you're going to go work for the evil overlords, you view that as like ah,
It's
I
selling
don't
out.
really want
Yeah.
to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, essentially. That my university brain. I mean, I'm now I don't view it as that. It's people do that. That's fine.
Sure.
I have no issue with anyone. They're doing great work because they're keeping the minds in check.
Yeah.
But my, young undergraduate brain was like, that's not on. And I
Fair.
took
Yeah.
a elective in paleontology, and I had the wonderful Alison Blythe, who's one of my supervisors,
Mm-hmm.
and I nailed that unit because paleontology to me, and I'm not sure if you have the same thing in the US. There's, it's a geology and biology unit, but there seems
Mm-hmm.
to be two kinds of paleontologists: those who think it's all about the geo and a little bit of bio, those who think it's all about the bio and a little bit of geo, and it
For sure.
depends on who you are.
Yeah.
I come from the more it's a bio with a little bit of a geo side, but that's because I work on more modern stuff.
I,
Those
I'm
who work
I'm the same way. Yeah.
older,
Yeah. Even though I went
yeah,
to Montana State, which is like their paleontology is part of the Earth Sciences department, but I was never the most comfortable
yeah,
there. Because I don't know, I'm just much more interested in living critters. And I guess my brain just doesn't really work in the way where I just naturally grasp geological concepts. It could be like just a huge personal failing, but like I don't know. I've always been a poor geologist, and I've been a little bit better at the whole zoology part of things. So I can totally relate to what you're saying there. Um,
yeah.
yeah, with
I think it depends. I personally think the split comes with vertebrate versus invertebrate because invertebrate people have to work with rocks more, so
yeah, that's
it
true.
could also be that.
And they also often have much bigger sample sizes. Yeah, like I don't know.
Mm.
I've done a ton of work with Jim Kirkland, who's the state paleontologist for the U.S. state of Utah, and he thinks of himself as a
Yeah, he's got
biostratigrapher.
the raptor rock.
Exactly, yeah, the Utah Raptor megablock. Exactly, yeah. But Jim,
Yeah.
he did a lot of work on ammonites and other inverts like that from the Cretaceous, and so
Oh, okay.
to him, that is what paleontology should be all about. It is biostratigraphy, and everything else is just kind of window dressing over the top of it. And I can totally understand that perspective, and I think that's really important. Um, and yeah, but at the same time, it's almost like the like you were talking about the taxonomic aspect of it honestly seems a lot simpler when it comes to
Mm.
invertebrates than it does to vertebrate animals. So yeah, I wanted to ask you about the challenges uh, that come along with working on these betongs. When you're looking at these subfossil remains and the modern remains of these animals too, and living specimens, um, what are some of the like challenges that you've encountered in trying to figure out who's who? Which species are valid, which ones should be lumped or split, that kind of thing.
Yeah. So essentially, I'll walk through a kind of a brief
Yeah, yeah.
process, but it's all about data collection. Essentially, you measure everything.
Mm-hmm.
If anyone's wanting to get into science out there, you've got to measure. You can't just say these look different because look doesn't mean anything.
Right.
You got to
That's
have your quantitative data to apply to something. So
yeah.
in the paper, I measured, I think it was like 38 different cranial and dental measurements. So essentially, it'd be like
Mm-hmm.
the width of the molar versus the anterior width, so the front of the molar versus the back of the molar, and
Yeah.
then you do that for like every single tooth, and
Mm-hmm.
then you might go the zygomatic width, which is the width along the cheekbones versus uh, a whole bunch of different things, and you have to measure all that because you don't know at the time what character. So what
Right.
of these measurements is going to be significant?
You don't know
So
what's going to be
in
signal and what's
dinosaurs,
going to be noise. Yeah.
exactly, 100%. So in dinosaurs, I don't know what is significant. I would imagine the teeth
We're
are not significant because
we're
they're
still
constantly
figuring that
shedding.
out. Teeth are generally not very
Oh, okay.
diagnostic. Dinosaur teeth tend to be fairly conservative and just nobody really cares about them
Mm,
much. Um, but yeah, and I don't know. And there's a tremendous amount of it seems like intra-specific variation in dinosaurs too. I'm
hmm.
curious to hear how it is for betongs or other marsupials. Um,
Yeah. So for mammals, it's teeth is king.
yeah,
I say
yeah,
there are exceptions to the rule because there's always exceptions, and
uh-huh.
that's usually because you've got convergent evolution going on, where you have two things that you know are not related,
Hmm.
but they've evolved because they share a niche.
Mm-hmm.
But generally speaking, I saw you explain in the chat earlier. Teeth are going to evolve first because simply if you're changing your diet, you need to change your teeth. And
Yep. That's the business
at
end of
least
the
with
animal.
mammals, yeah, it's the business end essentially. So the things that are going to
Yeah.
change first are your teeth, your also your senses. So your nose might change because you're going to smell
Hmm.
your food better. Your
Yeah.
eyes might change because you want to see better to look for predators. Hearing as well.
Maybe
So
your
all those
brain
kind of
associated with that
characteristics
as
you need
well,
to look
like
first.
endocasts.
Correct, your
Yeah.
brain, yes.
Yeah.
Um, so all those kind of things are the things we can look for. But the first one generally we go to is teeth because it's the
Hmm.
teeth are good too because they're coated in enamel. So
Hmm.
you got your dentin on the inside, which is your soft material, and then your enamel on the outside. So in mammals, at least, once the M1, so the first molar, has erupted, and it's a adult M1, I need to emphasize that that
Hmm.
tooth is never going to grow again because it's
Right.
coated in enamel. It cannot grow. So even if you have a juvenile animal with an M1 that's erupted, you know that that tooth is as big as it's going to be in an adult animal. So it
Right.
means that you can account for ontogeny,
Uh
which
huh.
is huge
Oh yeah. Yeah.
because,
My chat
as
knows
we
all about
know,
that. Yeah.
it's very easy to, yeah, it's very easy to go, well, this thing's this big and this thing's this big. It's either that they're two different species or that it's a juvenile and an adult. But
Hmm.
if you know that the tooth in both of those animals are the same size, you
Right.
can account for that straight away.
Uh huh.
But then you can also look for things we call cusps. And essentially that might be there's extra ridges on the teeth. One of my species in the paper, Odontoploica, it has something that no other bettong has. And it has these little ridges and folds on the teeth, which we thought
Hmm.
was absolutely bizarre. So that's why we
Uh
gave it
huh.
that name, Odontoploica. It's a
Right.
combination of Greek and Latin, which one of the reviewers wasn't a fan of combining Greek and Latin,
We
but
do that all the time,
I
though.
think
I
it
don't
sounded
know.
better.
Yeah.
I know I'm not a purist.
Yeah.
It means folded tooth because it had these crenulations. That's the word.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which are very similar to what a lot of primates and bats have. It essentially gives them
Hmm.
more grinding surface.
Huh.
So it's probably that these animals were grinding hard teeth. But yeah. So the process essentially is that you've got to measure everything, and then after you've done that and you've made a some kind of analysis. So we used, not to overcomplicate it, but we used a PCA analysis, and it
Mm.
visualizes in a
Yeah.
kind of a scatter plot
Hmm.
everything.
Yeah.
I'm sure that if you go through the paper, that those figures will be there,
Hmm.
and then you're able to go, okay, so it's grouping these guys here, it's grouping these guys here, these guys here. So then you can kind of pull your skulls and go, well, hang on, what am I seeing here? And then you can kind of go through one by one and go, well, this one has very large, wide teeth. That's the character it
Hmm.
pulled out. This one has very large bulla, which are they're essentially these kind of blisters underneath the skull, and they
Mm.
they are
For
related
like
to the
the ear.
ears. So if
Yeah.
the blister is larger, better hearing; smaller, worse hearing. So again, we saw that was a factor, and there is in at least marsupials a character where usually arid adapted animals
Hmm.
have larger. Hang on, let me get this correct. Yeah, arid adapted animals have larger blisters or the bulla
That makes
because
sense.
they've
Larger
got a more
ears for
open
heat
habitat.
dissipation. Yeah.
Not just heat
Yeah.
dissipation, but because they're in a larger habitat, they can hear further. There's no uh,
Oh.
foliage getting in the way of the sound. Whereas
Right.
forest adapted animals, there's all that foliage breaking it up. They can't hear as well.
That makes sense. So like a fennec
So
fox would be maybe a good example where it's just got these enormous, ridiculous ears, and that's an animal that's living in an
yeah,
extraordinarily arid habitat. It's got to hear for a long
correct.
distance. Yeah. Okay. That
Yeah.
makes
Whereas if
perfect
you're in
sense.
an a forested habitat, the trees are going to be breaking up that sound. They're going to be
Yeah.
bouncing
Yeah.
off.
Uh
So
huh.
there's lots of things you can look for, and you can make educated guesses, let's say,
Mm-hmm.
on the animal's habitat and lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what basically we went through and looked at. You know, these 193 skulls I think we ended up with.
Uh
There
huh.
were more, but you know how it is with fragmentary stuff.
Yeah. A lot
It's
of times
very
it's just not worth
difficult.
looking at.
Some stuff was just, yeah, it's
Yeah.
yeah, unfortunately.
You got to pick your
Um,
battles. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
yeah, we were also able to look at postcranials, which I thought was fabulous. I had never done postcranials before, so I
Yeah.
got to learn from the lovely Natalie Warburton. She's a very famous anatomist here in Australia.
And
She's
one of the
done
authors on your paper.
amazing
Yeah.
work on.
Yeah.
Yes, she
Yeah.
taught me how to do anatomy, um, and that was very eye opening. I'd never done
Hmm.
any postcranial material before, and I got to
Yeah.
say that's a whole kettle of
I'm
fish.
do mammals have postcrania? I mean, it seems like hardly anybody studies them. Um, yeah. So
Yeah, no, yeah,
for
it's
anybody in the chat who postcrania is just all the bones behind the skull. So like when people are
yeah.
studying mammals, especially fossil mammals, there tends to be a lot of focus on the teeth because like we were talking about, the teeth evolve really quickly. That tells you about the ecology of the animal, all kinds of stuff like that. Teeth are really really informative. I've collected Mesozoic mammal postcranial bones, so femurs and stuff like that, a few ribs here and there, and the mammal people, they might be super excited about a tooth or especially a jaw with teeth in it or other skull bones, but a rib, a femur, a pelvic element, they do not care about these at all, and it might sit in a
Mm,
museum drawer and never get studied. Um, so I know this is a thing for fossil mammals, especially Mesozoic mammals. I kind of get the impression it's true for, modern mammals
yeah,
as well.
it's
Yeah.
100% true.
Huh.
It is the case that with the holotypes, for instance,
Yeah.
until about I want to say 1950s,
Uh huh.
the standard procedure was to here's your skull, here's your skin, throw everything else away.
Right.
So that's
Yeah.
kind of where that, at least for Australia, I'm not sure what was done in
No,
the
I
US.
that sounds about right for North America too. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's kind of where that comes from, where,
Mm-hmm.
hey, we can't refer to anything, so why would we do anything?
Yeah.
We've gotten better now. A lot of museums do keep the postcranials, and
Uh huh.
with that, people are going back and doing that work, and that's
Mm-hmm.
a huge area where that needs more work. There's very few people who are doing it. As I said, here Natalie Warburton's doing a lot of that work, and
Mm-hmm.
she's publishing some amazing papers on it. Um, that's why in this paper I said I want to do some postcranials because we have the material for it. Let's do
Mm-hmm.
it. We CT scanned. There's a mummy in this paper for the new species. We CT scanned it. We actually extracted the bones out of the mummy because we figured, look, if we're going to describe them, we may as well do this properly.
Yeah.
Um, we requested to get the holotype CT scan because I believe with Betongia penicillata, it still has the hand bones in the original skin. That's how much
Oh.
people didn't care. We were denied, unfortunately, because
Uh.
Naturalist Museum's very careful about their specimens. But with it, maybe in the future we can do a
Uh
collaborative
huh.
work to do that. But
Uh huh.
um, doing this work's important because now, with this described, if a paleontologist coming up goes, "Hey, I've got all these mammal bones of betongs in caves,"
Mm-hmm.
they know what they are. Whereas before they just go, "This is a betong." In the drawer it goes, as you said, and never look
Right.
again.
Right. Uh huh.
So it's
So,
it's important.
which elements have you found are actually diagnostic postcranially in these critters? Like, to paraphrase for the chat, what are good bones to look at aside from skulls or teeth for
Yeah,
betongs
so
that can
it
actually give you good
changes
info?
from marsupial to marsupial group, but with
Okay.
the macropoda so the
Yeah.
kangaroos, the poderoids, those kind of animals, your
Uh huh.
hopping kangaroo-like ones,
Yeah.
it's actually your foot bones because that's how they're traveling.
Uh huh. Makes sense.
So we have the calcanei and all the other
Mm-hmm.
kind of ankle elements.
Yeah.
Those are changing. They're getting broader, more robust. All of that kind of, and maybe that's how they're like turning their ankles or how they're moving them.
Huh.
That seems to be very diagnostic, even between very closely related taxa. There's huge variances.
Mm-hmm.
Everything else in the leg kind of just is standard kangaroo, kangaroo, kangaroo.
Hmm.
Some elements of the hands can change, and that might be how they're using them. So with this new
Mm-hmm.
Hauachere, it had very short fingers, so
Uh huh.
it could be using its hands differently. A lot of the burrowing betongs have very long fingers for digging,
Huh.
so
Okay.
it's probably using its hands differently.
Yeah.
But it seems to be mainly the ankles and the phalanges seem to be the biggest thing that change.
Do you suspect that they're changing ontogenetically, all of these postcranial elements, as these animals are growing and maturing? Do you feel like the morphology is changing in the limbs and stuff, or not really?
There's definitely ontogenetic change. You can
Okay.
you can see that. You can see the bones that are not fused. You can see so in betongs,
Mm-hmm.
the nose hasn't fully elongated. So you if you have a
Yeah.
juvenile,
Uh-huh.
the back of the skull, like the brain case will be inflated, the front of the skull will be shorter. You might go, oh, it's a very big-brained, short-skulled animal, but it's
Sure.
yeah, so there is ontogenetic change, but it's usually very obvious because the easy way to tell, at least in betongs, um, them from adults is you flip the skull over, you look at the teeth. Not everything will be erupted. So they have four molars. If the
Hmm.
fourth molar is not erupted, juvenile straight away.
Okay.
Um, yeah, so that's the general
Simple
rule. And
enough.
even
Yeah.
if that means even if you have a fragmentary maxilla, you can tell straight away.
Hmm.
It's what we call encrypt. So the tooth will be,
Mm.
like that,
Uh-huh.
just for your chat. And it's very simple. It's very good. They also have deciduous teeth, which I
So you're talking
you'd
about
be
like
familiar
the
with.
the baby teeth, essentially, right? Or you're talking about something else?
Yes, yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
So they have. I'm not sure if you have the paper up, but there's a really good photo in there that
Uh-huh.
illustrates this. Figure 37 would be the best one to use
37. Let me see if I
because
can find
there's
this by
yeah
scrolling down.
there's an individual who has adult and juvenile teeth on the same individuals. He's probably adolescent where he's just losing the last of his.
Okay. I don't know if I'll be able to pull it up for the chat right now without. Maybe I can do this really briefly if I just switch scenes. But figure 37, here's figure 30. Scrolling down, scrolling down. 31, toward the end of the paper.
Yeah, it's
Mm-hmm.
one of the last. I think it is the last figure. But
Okay.
one side of his jaw, he's got a big, large premolar, and then on the other, there's two little ones. Basically, they lose those two, and it's replaced by a large blade.
So this
And it
is.
illustrates it.
Is it E or D or
It should be
C?
A.
Should be A. Okay. Let me show this real quick to the chat. Um, A should be right here on this side, figure 37. Nice.
Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah, really nice. Nice. This is a growth series here, right?
No,
Is that
so
what you're
that's
saying?
the every taxa that was in one species.
Oh shoot. Okay, yeah. Never mind. Very very cool.
So
Yeah.
they were all considered one species until
Uh
this
huh.
paper,
Wow.
and I split them out. So they're the holotypes.
Sorry, I was completely misreading that. I'm trying to track six different things at once here, but
No, it's okay. It's okay.
really exciting. And I mean, so how many new taxa do you erect in this paper? Like how many new species have we got here as of this publication?
So Betongia hoatra is a new species. I split Betongia agilbii out of Betongia penicillata.
So
So
it
it
becomes its own
becomes from
species.
Betongia penicillata. Yeah. So
Yeah.
Betongia penicillata, Betongia agilbii become full species status.
Nice.
Within, I apologize in advance. It's very confusing because a lot of the
That's
radio
how it
people have
goes.
been struggling with it too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So within the new Betongia agilbii species,
Uh-huh.
there's then Betongia agilbii sylvatica and Betongia agilbii, and then
Okay.
Betongia agilbii odontoploid, as well as I move Betongia penicillata francisca over to Betongia agilbii as Betongia agilbii francisca.
Hmm.
So it's kind of this mess of, hey, this is how it was,
Uh-huh.
this is how I think it is.
I feel like that would be neat as a
But
visual abstract if the journal were to require that kind of thing. You could make a little infographic. Um,
there's a map I did which kind of
uh-huh.
shows the distribution. I think that will clear it up for yourself. I don't know if you need to show it to chat or not, but
Uh-huh.
it shows the distribution
Is this
of
figure
where I found.
36?
It might be.
This one right here. Um,
Yes, that one.
Morphological distribution? Excellent. Okay, okay, yeah. No, this is starting to make more sense now. I'm
Yeah.
starting to get it, I think. Yeah. Very cool. Um, yeah, neat stuff. This is really neat. How long did it take to come up with the names for these new taxa? And how much of that was a group effort versus like one person with a really clear vision and they pushed for it?
So Hoatre was pretty quick, simply because in 2016, the genetic study that actually said, "Hey, there's a new nullable one," was done
Uh-huh.
by Hoatre et al. So we kind of said, "Oh
Okay.
well, she essentially found this species. It was her work. We
Yeah.
should honor Hoatre."
And hence the AE
Um,
at the end, that suffix denotes,
yeah,
female. So yeah. I was wondering like
yeah,
who it was named after. Yeah, that makes sense.
yeah. So it's named after Dalal Hoatre. She's a geneticist who did a lot of macropodiform genetic work.
Uh-huh.
in Australia basically said, look, wallabies look like this, and
Uh-huh.
a lot of stuff. So we said, look, she found it. She's also done a lot of work. She needs some honoring there, as you should do. You should, respect your peers.
Uh-huh.
Also, there's not enough women named in science. Let's be real.
Absolutely.
It's all
Yeah.
men.
Hmm.
Um, all old white men.
Yeah.
Um, so that was simple. Hard
Uh-huh.
straight, nice and done, quick. It was the common name for that one that was annoying because
Hmm.
every common name that we could come up with was not great. So I kind of just left it as Little Betong, and I kind of common names, who cares? But we will collaborate with Aboriginal elders to come up with a traditional landowner name,
Hmm.
which I would prefer. With the new subspecies Sylvatica and so the forest woily and the scrub woily, that was more tricky simply because for the longest time we kind of just had placeholder names
Hmm.
of like, oh, this one's from this place, this from this place. We'll name them at the end, and it wasn't until last few months that they kind of were solidified.
Huh.
Um, because it kind of didn't matter. My uh, supervisor at the West Australian Museum kind of said, "Look, don't bother with names. You don't even know if they're a real thing yet. Wait until you've actually got the data to show it, and then consider
Right.
names." And it's only once we kind of had that, I was like, "Oh, actually, I have to go now back through my paper and edit out all the placeholder names," and that was relatively annoying. But it's right. You shouldn't,
Yeah.
because then you'll go with that bias of I've named a new species. I need to
Mm.
write it up as if I have that. So I
Right.
like that idea of don't assume you have a new species yet.
Hmm.
And then it was kind of okay. Well, what should we name this after? Well, Odontoploica. The most significant thing on it's got crenulations. That's weird, bizarre. We don't see that. So
Hmm.
what can we name it? Oh well, these kind of look like folds in the tooth. That's what crenulations are. Is there something that means tooth fold? Odontoploica. Cool, done. Sylvatica. It's found in forests. Silver meaning forest.
Yeah.
Vatica meaning lives in. Done. And then
Hmm.
a gilbii is just that's what you do when you have a subspecies that's there. So
Right.
yeah, no, so the naming process is pretty simple. It's one
Hmm.
of those things though that uh, I don't know. I found it enjoyable. Greek and Latin is definitely something that is harder, I think, now than maybe it was in the past. It's not
Yeah.
taught as much.
For sure. Yeah. And also, to a certain extent, it's more difficult because people call you out for it more if you do it wrong. Like,
Oh god, yeah.
with, with the
There's
internet and
also
with,
a lot more purists as
oh yeah,
well.
for sure. Yeah. Yeah. You used to be able to get away with just kind of, you know, giving it like a half measure of effort, and people said, "Oh, it's fine."
Yeah,
But nowadays, yeah. Um, no, but that's really cool. It's
yeah.
This is exciting.
I
So what?
definitely would like to do some
Yeah.
outlandish names one day because
Uh
my
huh.
my supervisor Kenny, he's a bandicoot expert. He has named, and this is probably one of my favorite names, a
Hmm.
bandicoot genus name Crash, species name Bandicoot.
Uh huh.
So I'd like to do something like that one day, but I
That
think
would certainly get
until
a lot
I
of
get
attention. I mean, yeah, that's the
oh
thing is
yeah,
the press eats that up, and to a certain
yeah,
extent, like people might say, "Oh, well, isn't that kind of attention seeking or something?" But when you're dealing with endangered species that are, they
correct.
desperately need help, we need funding for this kind of thing. I think it's a moral good to be attention seeking about this sort of thing.
The
I have
thing
no
is too,
no qualms about that. You know?
at the end of the day, the
Uh
the
huh.
name serves the purpose of to know what we're talking about.
Right.
If you know the species we're talking about, whether it be Crash Bandicoot, uh, Balbaroo Fangaroo,
Uh huh.
uh, what was the one in China, Han Solo,
Yeah. There's Ninjamies,
all
the
these
Ninja
others.
Turtle from Australia
Yeah,
as
the
well.
Ninjamies. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Uh, all Predatorunops, all these silly names that scientists come up with. At the end of the day, scientists are nerds. Let them be nerds. It doesn't matter. Uh,
Uh huh.
they're funny names. I
Yeah.
think they're great.
Shoot, I'm an
I'd like
author
to
on the
do.
paper for Triarchunkus, that alvarezsaur from the Hell Creek Formation, little dinosaur. Its name means Captain Hook. It's got these hook-like claws
Yeah,
on its hands.
I mean that's great. It's little
Yeah.
hook arms. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think it's great personally. I think obviously at the stage I'm at, I'm gonna keep my head down a little bit until I can
Yeah.
confidently go. Now this is a silly one. We're gonna do it. Because
Uh-huh.
the thing is, I think too, is you got to find the right species. Like Triarchunchus with little cook hand, you can't
Yeah.
avoid that. That's
Uh-huh.
But if you were to just find some random taxa that's from some fragmentary material and just go, no, I'm going to name this some ridiculous name, you're kind of
Yeah.
pushing your luck a little bit. But
For sure. Yeah.
yeah,
We've got a dinosaur named Thanos from Argentina, I think. It's
yeah,
based on a single vertebra. Um,
yeah, nah.
yeah.
If you had something that could relate it to that character, I think that would be better. So, like, I think it was the
Sure.
Predatorunop spider. It's got the jaws that look like the predator, so that's why they like to call it the.
Oh, okay, yeah. Yeah. That's funny. I hadn't actually heard about that critter. I'm gonna have to look that up.
Yeah,
Um,
I think it's a genus with 14 species. So there's like Predatorunop's Schwarzeneggeri, and then like all these.
yeah, yeah.
So people have fun. Yeah,
That's great. Yeah. Jesse Ventura eye. Yeah. um,
yeah. It's all
yeah.
things related to the movies, and
Hmm.
like yeah. So taxonomy is great. People, these scientists that are toiling away in labs are like, this is what I'm going to do today.
Yeah. There's a pretty good
Have fun with
Wikipedia
it.
article about it's just a list of like different taxa that are different names of organisms named after famous figures, famous people, celebrities, movie stars, politicians,
There,
whatever.
there are some bad ones though. I will add
Yeah.
that to your. There's some that need to be, and that draws into the question of sorry, I forget the name of it, but the rule where we have to keep the name, because that
Oh,
has been called into
so
question.
what you're talking about is like priority within the ICZN? Um,
Mm, yes, but also there's the thing where we can never change it because it's been given the name. I forget. So priorities when two names are given, but one came
sure,
first, and
yeah.
therefore
The
we.
later one gets sunk. Yeah, I don't
Yeah,
I don't actually know the name for that concept. Yeah.
I can't remember it, but there's some offensive names that are still stuck around because they're, you know,
Uh-huh. Sure.
we have to keep them. And
Yeah.
so in recent years, there has been some call for, hey,
Mm-hmm.
should we as scientists take the initiative to get rid of these names?
Right.
And that's a tricky one too. So
Mm-hmm.
as much as taxonomists like to have fun and name it after celebrities and that, we have to kind of think, you
Is
know,
this going to stand the test of time?
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, 100%.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
speaking of which,
So,
when you
so
were, what was the process like? I'm wondering if it's different for modern critters versus fossil critters. Um, when you have to submit this name to, is it Zoobank or is it, I'm
yeah, so
for,
Zoobank is what
yeah.
I had to spin it to.
So what was that like? That whole
Just
process?
it's very easy. It's
Mm-hmm.
simply a case of you enter in the name. So I check preemptively if they'd be valid.
Mm-hmm.
So at the West Australian Museum, we actually have someone who is a member of the ICZN. So that's nice and easy.
Nice.
I just
Yeah.
run the names by him. And he goes, "Oh, I would change this," or "Hey, actually, that's not the correct
That's
terminology."
great. You
So
could just talk to somebody
anytime
about
someone
that. Yeah.
says,
Yeah.
yeah, anytime someone says,
Yeah.
"Oh, I don't like that," I go, "I've actually already run these names past someone who's on the ICZN."
Yeah.
So review. That's an easy reply to reviewers,
Uh-huh. Yeah.
because you can't really fight someone who's on the ICZN and approved it. But
Exactly.
yeah, so I run that past them, and
Mm-hmm.
then yeah, you submit to Zoobank. You say, Here's the placeholder for the paper. It'll come out when Zootax or Outring or whatever paper I'm submitting it to
Mm-hmm.
has published it." And then you grab that identifier number and you attach it to your paper, and they go, "Okay, we'll handle it from there."
Nice.
So it's been
Yeah.
pretty easy. I'm not familiar with the process on older fossil vertebrates. Is it
I don't think
difficult?
it's as stringent. Yeah. Like I think it's a fairly new thing that you have to submit it to Zoobank if you do at all, and I think it only pertains to animal fossils. But I
Okay.
don't know. I'd have to ask some colleagues about it. I wasn't involved with that for Trurarchunchus. But oh, before I forget too, I should clarify. ICZN is a term that we've been throwing around, or ICZN if you're from a
Oh
Commonwealth
yes.
country. That's the International Code of Zoological Nomenclature, chat. So that's essentially
Yes.
just it's a set of rules and also an organization that dictates the naming rules and conventions around animal names. And I actually have the code book right here. This is an older edition, but I've got this on my shelf. It's a nice thing to have. I rarely refer to it, but um, I mostly got it so I can show the camera when I'm
And
talking about the ICCN here on
we
Twitch. But
should mention there's also the ICN as
mm-hmm.
well, which is the International Code of Nomenclature,
Uh-huh.
and then that's just for bacteria, plants, and fungi because they are separate
Oh.
from. They used to be
So
the
those
ICBN,
uh-huh.
which is the International Code of Botanical Nomenclature, but because
And
they
then they
have
decided to
fungi and
include
bacteria,
fungi and bacteria.
yeah,
Okay, yeah,
they
yeah. Yeah, that makes sense.
why they
Interesting.
operate separately is beyond me when the rules should be the same, but
Which is kind of funny because that
uh,
means that you can give a plant and an animal the same exact genus and species name. And I think there actually is
there
a
are
plant
several
called
examples of this.
yeah, yeah, give us some if you know one off the top of your head.
I personally don't have it off the top of my head. So recently, I did a contract at the West Australian Geological Society,
Uh-huh.
and it was I was doing. I'm not sure if you have at any museums you've done work at, but they have Emu, which is the new databasing system that we were switching over to.
Not familiar with that,
It's
no. Yeah.
okay,
We've
so it's
we've got
basically this
a
databasing
lot of
system.
Arctos here in North America,
Oh,
but
okay.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so Emu is essentially a databasing system for your
Uh-huh.
chat. Databasing systems are how museums store data so that you can go, I want to find this taxa, bang, it's these specimen numbers, or I want to look at these specimen
Hmm.
numbers, know where they are in your collection. I was helping them transfer all the fossil material onto this new database because up until this point they didn't have a modern database.
Hmm.
While doing that, I had to look at fossils. So, we had plants, we had animals, we had, microbolites, all that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
So I had to switch between the bot code and the zoo code, and unfortunately, the stromatolites don't have a code because they got booted out of the bot code. So
Shoot.
very tricky.
Uh-huh.
So there are stromatolites that share names with animals, and there
Uh-huh.
are plants that share names with animals, and there are all three that have names. So if someone one day wants to combine all those codes, they're going to have to really sort that out.
Oh boy.
So it's
There's
a
got to be a
mess.
term for that in like database circles as well. But yeah, I want to say that there's a plant that its genus and species name is Tyrannosaurus Rex, and someone did that just as a goof at some point. I think there's a number
I
of
wouldn't be
different
surprised.
examples like that, just somebody being cheeky.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a problem. It's one of those things that is probably the reason they don't put them together, but
Hmm.
we need to. The fact that they are separate is it's problematic because the whole point of the code is to control how they're named. But if they're separate, you can't.
Right.
Yeah,
You get weird
I don't know.
overlaps
Maybe
and
it's
stuff in it. I don't know. It's supposed to eliminate confusion to have a codified set of rules, but to have two different
exactly.
sets of rules, they can overlap, and that creates confusion. So, yeah.
Well, and then in the case of the stromatolites, or sorry, I should say the microbolites,
Hmm.
to then kick a whole group out and go, no, we don't want you in here.
Right.
Then they don't have their own rules they follow, and they
Yeah.
can't be in either. It
Yeah.
very problematic.
Uh
So
huh.
what do people follow
Yeah.
when they're working with microbolites? They don't have a group to follow.
That's really funny. Yeah. The Fossil Freak in chat says it also makes building consensus trees extremely difficult. I can see how that would happen. Yeah. Um, and then Ozzy Ute said in the chat, rule of primacy is the term that we were trying to come up with there,
Is that
where
what it
the
is?
first
Okay.
published name, yeah, and that's ringing a bell. Yeah. I think
Okay.
Stephen Jay Gould actually had an essay about that. There were some cases that the ICZN looked at in like the 80s or something where um, people really wanted to preserve the name boa constrictor because that's actually the genus and species name for that critter. But it turns out that somebody had like, you know, in a short communication, some piddly little paper, they'd given it a name
Hmm.
earlier, and I don't know. So if you're going to be a purist about it, you should go with this really obscure name that nobody knows. But in this case, the ICZN actually ruled that, hey, we'll use the name that everybody actually uses. We'll maintain that. We'll bend the rules a little bit for the sake of, just better communication, just making things simpler so people don't get confused. I appreciate
Yeah,
that.
it's interesting with that one too because then you're arguing what counts as a published name.
Right.
Because if
Mm-hmm.
it's a name that's on a footnote on some random letter,
Uh huh.
is that a published name or is that someone's manuscript name that they've gone, I think it's this
Uh huh.
on like some coffee stained, tea towel that
Sure.
they
Yeah.
had in a, so I kind of see where they were going with that.
Uh huh.
There's plenty of times where someone misspells a name, as I'm sure
Mm-hmm.
you're aware in research,
Oh yeah.
or incorrectly refers to something when they meant something else. So I can see that case, but to then go, I was thinking of, as I'm assuming what this was. I was thinking of naming it this, but I ended up naming it this. Oh, but this takes priority.
Hmm.
I have issues with that. But I mean, I'm not on the ICZ, and so I can't see what they do.
Not
That's
yet, at
way
least.
above
Yeah.
my qualification. Oh no, I don't aspire to that. That
Yeah.
that's
Okay.
that sounds like a whole lot of work.
It sounds like you've got the right attitude for. Like, I don't know. I would trust you to make decisions about this kind of thing, but you can also petition
No,
the ICZN from the outside. So, yeah.
oh yeah,
Um, yeah. I've got my undergrad
I trust
advisor
the
is
ICZ.
currently doing that. Yeah. Yeah. He's trying to preserve the name Troodon for you know, the little
That
very
mess,
brainy
yes.
little theropod dinosaur. Yeah. It's based on a single crummy little tooth. It's
Tribune.
totally non-diagnostic, and
Yeah. Well, I mean,
yeah.
that brings in the problem of mainly in North America, but the is it the Bone Wars where they
Mm-hmm.
named everything based on
Open marsh.
basically
Oh
no
yeah.
material?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And that's the whole thing with taxonomy about how you need to
Yep.
have something that's actually diagnostic and worthwhile to name a species on.
Oh
So
yeah.
holotypes matter.
Mm-hmm.
So having a Troodon be this little crummy tooth is
Uh-huh.
problematic.
Uh-huh. We
Uh,
don't even know where it really comes from or anything. We don't have
oh,
stratigraphy on it. We don't have data. It's like what you were talking about with those specimens of bitongs there. The genomic stuff. It creates
yeah.
problems further down the road, you know? Yeah.
Also, a lot of the holotypes in the Natural History Museum of the modern mammals, it just
Mm-hmm.
says Australia because the English came over here. They went,
Right.
oh, blimey, these new mammals. Ooh. And then they shot them, took them back to the UK, and went, we collected them in Australia. And it's like,
Right.
cool, but where? There's,
Whole continent, you know? Yeah.
yeah, it's not very helpful.
Mm-hmm.
So it is it's difficult.
For sure.
Or it will
Yeah.
say New South Wales, but the problem is New South Wales it wasn't just the state back then. That was the whole colony, so it could be the entire east coast.
Jeez. Yeah. Oh man. Um, I want to be cognizant and respectful of your time here. So thank you so much
No,
for
I
yeah, this has been fantastic. And I know that you joined us really early in the morning too. What time is it there right now? Are you on
it's
like
just hitting 9 o'clock.
9 a.m.? Okay, gotcha. I appreciate you doing this on such short notice and everything. It's been a ton of fun talking about this. And thank you so much for sending me the paper. Um, before I
Yeah,
forget, I
I
want to do a
apologize. It's not
not open
open
access.
access. I there was a bit of yeah, there's a bit of confusion.
Mm-hmm.
So as a university student, uh, we have agreements with journals to make things open access. I was under the impression. I need to emphasize before this. I'm not down talking anyone or anything.
Sure.
I was
Yeah.
under the impression all journals we had an agreement with to make open access, but
Uh-huh.
there was a list of certain journals. So that's my faux pas and my bad. Um, so yeah, the journals are not open access because I picked a journal that wasn't on the approved list of open access that the
Mm.
university would pay for. So yeah, I'm of the opinion we should try to publish in as many open access journals
Yeah. Me
that
too.
we
Yeah.
want, and I
Yeah.
unfortunately sound hypocritical for having published in a non-open access
It happens though, and I
piece.
mean they don't always make it
But
easy.
yeah,
It's yeah. This is a systemic problem. It's not necessarily like an individual problem. Um.
yeah, yeah, I'm
Yeah.
sure you're very aware of the system.
Oh yeah.
It's very
Yeah.
hard to explain to your chat the issues, but it's
Yeah.
um, having to explain to my parents, oh, I've got this article coming out, and they're like, oh, yes, how much do you make from that? You don't.
Yeah.
It's
If anything, you have to pay for it
what do you mean? You're
sometimes.
doing
Yeah.
all these interviews. You wrote this thing that took you 4 years to write. You're not getting
Uh huh.
paid? No.
No.
And they're like,
Uh.
hold on, book authors would be getting paid for a book that took them 4 years to. No.
Well, I mean,
And
on
they're
that
like,
same
but
token, though. Sorry. Go ahead.
oh, sorry. I was just gonna say that they don't understand it.
It's tough, and I don't know. I really appreciate you coming on here and talking about this. On that token of getting rewarded for your work, do you have anything to plug? Is there, can people follow you on social media? Is there anything that we can do to help
Oh,
raise your star a little bit in the scientific world?
I mean, recently. I've moved over to Blue Sky from Twitter, as I'm sure everyone should have
Yeah, I have
by
to.
now.
Yeah.
So if anyone wants to follow me on Blue Sky to follow my work, I'll be publishing, my papers as they come out. It'll mainly be on small mammals, so I don't know if everyone's just interested in dinosaurs following Danny, but small
Wow.
mammals in Australia need a lot of love. We've got the worst extinction rate in the world. I think globally, modern extinctions, so from 1500 onwards, there's
Uh huh.
80 extinct mammals recorded. Australia's got 45 now. So we
Oh
have over
boy.
half of the extinct mammals in the world.
Uh huh.
And of those 45, 27 are from cats alone. So cats and foxes
Jeez.
are a real big problem.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's one of those issues where if we don't have people looking at this, we don't know what we don't know, as Danny said. We need to get on top of it before we lose everything. Uh, so that's where my work's focused. I know it's not as interesting as dinosaurs, but it's very important to do. And it also helps show how the work that someone like Danny is doing can be applied to modern research. Where the end Permian extinction, the end Cretaceous extinction, all of that relates to climate change. So
Absolutely. Yeah.
paleontology is vital for our understanding of what
Mm-hmm.
we are doing as a species and how we are affecting our environment. So I want to say, good work to all the paleontologists out there. We need this research to be done. Conservation isn't just about looking at what we have now or what we had 100 years ago. It's about what we had 10,000 years ago, 15,000 years ago. It's not deep time, but it needs to be looked at.
Hmm.
So, yeah, if you want to follow me and any of my socials, which at the moment it's just Blue Sky, I will be slowly publishing papers. I might also be publishing some pictures of some cute emus because, as I said, I'm on 5 acres and I've got some emu
Nice.
chicks running around at the moment. They're
Fantastic.
dinosaurs. So
Yeah, absolutely. We love emus here, so we'd love to see that. Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Thank you so much for this, Jake. I really appreciate it. And you let me know the next time you have another paper coming out too, and I'd love to interview you again if you'd be up for that. Really appreciate your time and
yeah. So the next one will
congratulations.
probably be a little bit more paleo because the
Okay.
next one's got more strat. It's got more environmental focus in
Mm-hmm.
terms of interpreting a stratigraphy.
Nice.
I
Okay.
can't talk too much about it. As I said, there's legacy material, so
Sure.
you need the approval of, as I'm sure you're aware.
Mm-hmm.
But to me, that's interesting because, as I said, the Holocene's kind of that period where it gets abandoned.
Mm-hmm.
Even just before the Holocene, the late Pleistocene, once, at least in Australia, I'm not sure the case in North America,
Mm-hmm.
once the megafauna disappear, people kind of lose interest because the interesting stuff's gone.
It's true.
Um,
I feel like that's true here too.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's kind of a case of all the cool stuff's gone, so why do we care
Mm-hmm.
anymore? And then the story kind of ends, and they go, and then we get to humans, and it's kind of like that. There's another 40,000 years of history there.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. It just gets ignored usually. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
that's kind of the next two papers I have coming. Next year I'll probably be doing more taxonomy stuff. It just takes time, so I kind of want to get my head finished on those, and then because I can't talk too much about it again because you know how it is. But we
Mm-hmm.
have some new specimens that have just come into the museum, and they need to be described. So there'll be some taxonomy stuff that will come
Nice.
around. We
Okay.
have some beautiful mummies, probably the best I've ever seen. They literally look like they've just fallen asleep.
Hmm.
Uh,
Of what kind of
yeah,
critter?
there's some salt. Again, can't really
Some kind of
say, but there was some
marsupial, we'll say.
salt,
Yeah.
some kind of marsupial. There was some salt in these
Yeah.
caves, so these have been
Very nice. Okay.
perfectly preserved.
Yeah. I just don't want people thinking when they hear mummy, oh, like an Egyptian mummy or something like that, you know?
Yeah,
Um,
no, I have a picture in the paper of.
mhm.
I actually also have. I don't know if it's in the DOIs. I 3D scanned and uploaded it in the DOIs of the mummy.
Uh-huh.
Uh, so it's
Let's
for
see. Here's
researchers
a
to be able to
modern
use.
specimen, like a skin. Scrolling through.
It should be figure 3, I believe.
Okay, great.
Sorry
Toward
to
the
make you
top.
scroll up and down.
Yeah, yeah. We'll
But yeah,
find that here.
yeah, it's
There we go. Yeah, look
and
at that.
then
Um, there you go, chat. So yeah, mummified specimen right there. We've got the head, hind limb, really long foot on these guys. As you would expect from like a macropod like that. Are these macropods or are they outside of that group?
So they're in the macropodiforms, but they're
Okay.
not Macropodidae, which is your true kangaroos. They're in the Podoroididae, which
Uh-huh.
is kind of a sister group to the kangaroos.
Gotcha.
Uh, we're not fully sure of the evolutionary history. It's kind of convoluted when you get back a bit.
Interesting.
Um, the characters that also split them are a bit confused.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably something I actually am interested in looking at because
Huh.
the fossils. It's hard to explain, but about 5 million years ago, we have some fossils from a site called Riversley. It's a World Heritage Area that Professor Michael Archer has worked on,
Mm-hmm.
but we're not sure if they're bettongs. So it's one of those kind of things of,
Interesting.
did the bettongs give rise to the kangaroos? Did they kind of split off? Is there some
Oh.
kind of other relationship?
Uh-huh.
How do they also relate to hypsoprimnodons, which are another sister group again?
Uh-huh.
So it just kind of shows that we need more work on the evolutionary history of these small
Yeah,
mammals,
yeah.
and we're not quite uh, finished yet.
That's exciting though.
As
I
much
mean,
as people think that mammals are done, and
there's still these like big mysteries that remain. Like that I hear that and I get excited
there's
about
so
this
many
that there's
mysteries.
yeah, yeah. That's really really cool. Um Before I let you go, I always like to ask a standard question to any colleague, any other paleontologist. What advice would you give to audience members who are interested in pursuing paleontology, either as a career or as a avocationally they want to get involved with paleontology? Um, Based on your experience and what you've done, what advice could you give them?
So for Australian paleontology, because that's the area I know,
Yeah.
there's very few, unfortunately, ways to get into it.
Mm,
There is Flinders University in Adelaide, which
right.
they
Yeah.
have an entire paleontology course on.
That's where John Long is, right?
Unfortunately, because of,
Yeah.
sorry, yeah, where John Long is. John Long used to
Yeah.
work at the West Australian Museum. Great
Right.
paleontologist, really
Yeah. Yeah.
whizzy stuff.
Uh huh.
Uh, because of that, it's a two-pronged or double-edged sword, I should say, where
Mm-hmm.
yeah, you'll learn about paleontology, but they're putting out a lot of paleontologists in a field where
There's not a lot of jobs.
there's not a lot of demand for paleo. Yeah. So
Yeah.
yes, you could do that, or you could try out your own university to go, I'm going to study geology, or I'm going to study this, and then turn into a paleontologist, because you don't have to do a paleontology degree to be a
Right.
paleontologist.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't do one. I just did it in my honors and postgrad and my PhD.
Mm-hmm.
I did environmental, and then I did a couple of units of geology, and then I'm a paleontologist, or this weird mix of things that kind of equal paleontology. If you're in Australia and you want to do paleontology, the best thing to do is think about, what are you interested in? Are you interested in mollusks? Are you interested in ammonites? Are you interested in mammals? Pick an area where you're like, okay, I'm very passionate about this group. I'm very
Mm-hmm.
passionate about their evolutionary history, how humans have affected them, maybe more recently, and
Mm-hmm.
stick to that, because passion is what's going to drive you. Even if you're not employed, even if you're being
Right.
told that you can't do that, that passion
Mm-hmm.
is going to drive you.
Yeah.
Yes, there are not a lot of jobs in Australia for this, unfortunately. You might have to go overseas, you might have to travel to new states, but that ultimately doesn't matter, because if you're passionate about what you do, you're never going to work a day in your life. Let's be
Mm-hmm.
real. Yes, a job's nice. You might have to work in a different industry doing something else, but if you want to be a paleontologist, there's different avenues. Volunteer at your local museum.
Yeah.
So at the Western Australian Museum, the museum that I do a lot of my research at, we take volunteers. They uh, sort fossils from these cave sediments. It's boxes upon boxes of small bones that get sorted out and removed from these cave sediments. You don't have to do paleontology volunteering. You could be helping in terrestrial vertebrates, where someone might be asking to move around uh, taxidermy.
Mm-hmm.
You're still getting your foot in the door. You're still understanding museum procedures. You're still understanding scientific names. You're still getting that relationship building with people and understanding things.
Yeah.
So do as much as you can do to understand and build these relationships with people who are in these institutions.
That's great. And
That would
thank
be
you
my
so much,
recommendation.
Jake. Yeah. Yeah. That's excellent advice, and that I feel like is a really useful addition to a lot of the stuff that I say to people. Um, there's a lot of enthusiasm around paleontology, but sometimes it's difficult to actually turn that into something that's you can sustain as a career. That's the tricky part, you know. And you've been able to do that through like a traditional
Yeah,
academic route, and that's and congratulations on doing that. Holy cow! So this is your final year as a PhD student, right? If you're a PhD candidate, even in Australia, that means that you're almost done.
yeah.
Yeah, nice, nice.
I'm almost done. The thesis is pretty much written. There's just a couple tweaks to do, and then I could submit it.
Uh huh.
I'm just waiting on my supervisor to kind of reread everything, all the corrections that she
Mm-hmm.
wanted. Unfortunately, she's been very unwell at the moment, and then she'll get it back to me
Sorry
and
to hear
say,
that.
"Okay, here's what I want you to change, or this and that," and then we can.
Uh huh.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but that happens.
Mm-hmm.
But it's one of those things, you get delays. We had COVID.
Mm-hmm.
I was sick for a bit of my PhD. I've had a daughter. There's been so many things that have just kind of,
Congratulations. Yeah.
you lose a month here, you lose a month there. Thank you. Uh, and it adds up. It's
Yeah.
and as I said,
I know
I've
how
done
it goes.
taxonomy, and it's a huge body of work. So
Yeah.
it just, yeah.
Shoot, I've been working on a
Uh,
paper for like 12
but
years
it's
now
getting
at this
done.
point, so I understand how that works too. um, yeah, it's
Yeah.
stuff comes up, but
And
yeah.
at the end of the day, though, the longer you take on the paper, the better that paper's going to be. If I had published this work and it had been 10 pages, it might not have been any quality. It would have just got
Hmm.
rejected. So the fact that it's, I think, 70 pages and we
Yeah.
found all of this stuff means that I've been able to put in the work, and hopefully it stands the test of time.
And yeah, again, congratulations. The paper looks brilliant. I'm glad that it's getting some good press. I hope that, you know, that continues. I hope to see you on the news and be able to go, "Hey, I know that guy." And thanks for making us look good as paleontologists too. I mean, holy cow, not only are you working on these extinct creatures, but also contributing information to being able to save modern creatures, living creatures from extinction as well. That's kind of the dream as a paleontologist to be able to not just study the past but also make a better future. Thank you for doing that. You should be immensely proud. This is
Yeah,
super cool stuff.
I think that's the thing that's, to me, is very important, because people are, how do I word this? People are very enchanted by paleontology, the appeal of dinosaurs, as
Yep.
you know.
Oh
They're
yeah.
these things that are gone. They're true monsters. But to be able to apply that to a modern context, that linkage, I
Mm-hmm.
don't think a lot of general public fully
Right.
understand. There's definitely a knowledge that it's, oh, hey, there's the end Permian extinction, there's the end
Mm-hmm.
um, Cretaceous
Cretaceous.
extinction.
Yeah.
We understand climatic events, but it's not fully realized. So to be able to go, hey, only 10,000 years ago, this is what the climate was like. This is what species were present in an area that's now devoid of life.
Mm-hmm.
Or, hey, this species at the time of European arrival looked like this, sure, and you think it was correct, but if we step back just another 1,000 years, it was this. I think that's very important. Um, so to me, it's something that I think promoting an understanding of and telling a lot of modern conservation scientists, environmental scientists, that hey, it's a tool we can use,
Mm-hmm.
is very important. My fellow PhD students under my supervisors, I've been telling, oh, what are you working on? And they'll say, oh, I'm reviewing possums, or I'm reviewing this and that. And I've said, oh, have you looked at fossils? And they go, oh, I've considered that. And so I'll take them over just literally the next door across to paleontology, and I'll go, why don't you
Thank
look
you for
here? And they
doing
open
that.
a drawer and they go,
Yeah.
and they go, wow, they have so many from this location that I cannot find any fossils from, any
Uh-huh.
specimens from. And I go, yeah, that's because they don't occur there anymore. And they go,
Right.
yeah, no one ever collected them there. And I go, that's because they're extinct now. And they'll have 100 specimens from this locality that they're missing. It's a big hole in their map. And they
Mm-hmm.
go, wow, I really should consider including subfossils in my data set. Yes, thank you. That's exactly,
Yeah.
and it's one of those things that consideration, it doesn't tweak until you and again, this is no poo pooing on them, but when you
Mm-hmm.
tell them, it's like a light bulb. It sparks, and they go, wow, this is something that actually is a tool I can use. Otherwise, these fossils just sit there because, as I said, they're too modern for paleos. They're too old for conservationists. But when
Right.
you actually show them to them, they go, "Oh, there's so much. There's drawers upon drawers of material." So yeah, as you said, it's to me it's an important teaching tool not just for the general public but for other scientists
Mm-hmm.
that hey, we've got the material, come use it.
Well said. Yeah. Again, thank you for doing this work, and thank you for coming on to the stream today. I realize this is a really kind of spur of the moment thing, um, really loosey
No,
goosey.
it's okay. I love
Yeah.
being here. It's good to promote this work. It's good to teach and educate other people about the importance of Australian marsupials. I mean, it's a corner of the world that people know because of Steve Irwin, all these other wildlife things. But our paleontology is probably something that's only known through Thylacoleo, Diprotodon. So to be able to
Mm-hmm.
talk about the lesser known,
Right.
small mammals, it's a great opportunity. Thank you for having me.
Of course. Yeah. Again, let me know the next time you've got another paper coming out, or any other time you've got something that you'd like to discuss on here to promote or whatever. Just an email away. So awesome. Well, I'll let you
No
get on with
worries.
your morning,
Thank
Jake.
you for having me.
Really appreciate you. Take care and
All
congratulations
right.
too.
Have a good
Exciting stuff.
stream.
Thanks. Yeah. All right. Take care. Bye bye.